Hi, I'm Joe with Lone Mountain Truck Leasing, and today we are going to go over every owner-operator's favorite subject, after-treatment systems. We're going to give you a brief hopefully we can give you a brief understanding of how the after-treatment system works, and then we will give you some tips if you get into a shop and they present you with a large bill. And finally, we will have one of our shop managers give you some more tips on questions you should be asking a shop if they tell you you need to replace your after-treatment system. First, we're going to show you a short video from Cummins to give you a basic understanding of how an after-treatment system works.
Our 2010 solution consists of our proven base engine with cooled EGR, along with the Cummins after-treatment system, which will include selective catalytic reduction, commonly referred to as SCR. Let's take a closer look at this fully integrated system on a Cummins ISX 15 for 2010. The Cummins after-treatment system for 2010 consists of the Cummins particulate filter, a decomposition reactor with a diesel exhaust fluid dosing valve, an SCR catalyst, and electronic controls. The OEM will provide a DEF holding tank, which will be installed on the frame and incorporate heating elements for the SCR tank and supply lines. Here's how the system works. Exhaust enters the particulate filter over a catalyst into a wall flow filter. Carbon particles are contained in the filter. Nitric oxide in the exhaust gas is converted to nitrogen dioxide in the diesel oxidation catalyst. As the nitrogen dioxide flows through the wall flow filter, it reacts with the carbon to produce carbon dioxide. As the exhaust passes out of the particulate filter, a light mist of diesel exhaust fluid is sprayed into the hot exhaust stream and the decomposition reactor and forms ammonia through a series of reactions. Together, the NOx and ammonia pass from the decomposition reactor into the SCR catalyst, where they react to form nitrogen and water vapor, thus reducing emissions to near zero levels.
So as you can see, an easy way of thinking of your after-treatment system is kind of a big filter that reduces emissions and traps soot so it doesn't get out into the air and cause pollution. A DPF can go several years without cleaning and several 100,000 miles, but it definitely depends on how much you idle your truck. If you idle your truck a lot, that is going to be a lot worse for your after-treatment system because it doesn't heat up, and that kind of can make all the soot kind of clog in there, and it's just bad for your after-treatment system. Say if you're running a team driving operation, your truck is always going down the highway, never stops, that's a lot better for your after-treatment system. So if you are idling a lot, if you're doing loads where you're sitting at a dock for long periods of time, if you don't have an APU, those would all be things where you might want to monitor your after-treatment system a lot more than if you're just doing over-the-road stuff where you're hardly idling at all, or if you do have an APU so that your engine's not running a lot. If another thing you want to watch out for is if you're doing a lot of regens, if your truck is regenning an excessive amount, that's probably something you want to look at before it gets too out of control. Like anything on a truck, if you let it go too far, it can turn into a really expensive problem, versus if you do preventative maintenance, you can make sure you can fix it for a lot cheaper price until you wait, versus if you actually wait till it actually breaks, and then it's going to be a lot bigger bill. Another thing that can harm your after-treatment system that's not kind of the fault of its own is if your turbo goes bad, it can leak oil into your after-treatment system, which can clog your DPF. An EGR cooler can leak coolant in there, which would also harm your DPF. Or if your turbo completely fails, you can have metal fragments because they're both your after-treatment system is downstream from your EGR and your entire engine. Metal fragments can fly into your DPF and damage that in that way as well. So you kind of want to, if you do have a leaky EGR cooler, you want to get that fixed. You're going to need to fix it anyway, but you would want to do it so that you don't have to replace your entire after-treatment system as well. So you want to be monitoring all those things as much as possible. There's a lot of good shops out there, but there's also a lot of bad shops out there. Later in the video, our mechanic is going to go over a few things that you can ask the shop to make sure they're not gouging you on pricing. As with any large repair in a shop, you want to be skeptical. You want to do some research. If they're telling you to replace something, a good thing, I mean, just Google it would be one way of, finding out something, so you learn a little more and you can talk to the shop a little better. Another good resource would be the truckersreport.com. There's a lot of people on there that answer and can give you a lot of information. You could even just scan or take a picture of your estimate and post it on there and ask what people think. You get a lot of reactions and you can get a lot of good info on there as well. So that would be a good resource for you. If the shop tells you you need a new after treatment system, which we see all the time with our customers, you want to start asking questions. The vast majority of the time, your whole system does not need to be replaced. We have a lot of instances where people bring one of their trucks to a shop. The shop says you need to replace the entire after treatment system, and we have our customer bring it to us for a second opinion. And when they bring it to us, it simply needs a couple $100 sensor or needs to have the DPF cleaned. Both of those are only a couple $100. An entire after treatment system can cost as much as $10,000. So you want to watch out for that. Wholesale, an entire after treatment kit, or however you would call it, would cost about $5,000 to $6,000. When you're buying it retail at the shop, it's about $10,000. So that shop can make $4,000 to $5,000 pretty quick if they can talk you into buying that, versus selling you a couple $100 sensor or doing the couple $100 cleaning. So if you look at it from that perspective, they make a lot more money if they can sell you the most expensive thing possible versus just fixing a simple sensor and getting you back on the road. So if you do replace the whole thing, yes, it will fix it, but the majority of the time that's just not needed. So you want to start asking a lot of questions and kind of, as I said before, be skeptical as you would be with any large repair. The first thing you want to do, if they tell you just the DPF is bad, you want to ask them if they've attempted to clean it. If they haven't done that, you want them to do that. Unless the DPF, you can actually see visual cracks in it, then you want to try to at least make an attempt to clean it, so that you can, that would be a way to hopefully fix it and get it back on the road for, again, only should be about $200 to $500 depending on where you're getting it cleaned at. Later, we're going to actually show you an entire DPF cleaning. Our machines that we have at our shops are the FSX machines, and that's kind of the best one to use. They don't wreck your DPF, and they're the most reliable, but they're not cheap. So they cost about $90,000 once you buy an air compressor for it and all the components and wire it into your shop. So it's definitely not a cheap investment, and a lot of shops don't have them, which again is why they will push you to replace everything instead of cleaning it, because if they don't have the machine, that would be another reason that they don't recommend cleaning it. If the cause of the failure is an EGR cooler or a turbo, as I went over before, you're going to have to replace that stuff. If you notice that it's going bad, you also want to just make sure you fix that stuff, because you're going to have to fix that anyway, so you don't want to replace your entire after treatment system and then still have the problem upstream that it's going to wreck the new one that you just put in. So you want to be asking those questions as well. Make sure those things are all good before you do replace an after treatment system or do replace a DPF that's been damaged or clogged. So right now we're going to go and show you one of our DPF cleaning machines. Aaron is going to go through the whole process with you and show you what it looks like with the FSX machine, so you can get a better idea of what actually happens, how it works, and how you can, so you hopefully you have a little more knowledge when you go to the shop and can tell them and can actually know what's going on when the DPF gets cleaned.
And every filter has a baseline, and this one is the maximum of a 3.3, so we're going to try to get it down to that 3.3, but first we got to check what the flow is right now. Right now it's sitting at about 3.9, and our baseline is max of 3.3. Now the actual cleaning process takes place in here in the trap blaster. This is actually going to clean the filter from both ends. It's actually blowing air in from the top and the bottom. As you can see, the soot and everything is being blown out of the filter and goes up into the soot sucker. And we always blow them out a minimum of 30 minutes. So. We have our timer right here. We'll run it for 30 minutes. The filter does not meet the baseline. We actually cook them in this kennel here. We actually cook them in there if they do not make the baseline for 12 hours. Then we re-blow them out if it does not reach the baseline. Just going to retest for the airflow. But you can see it's at about 3.1, 3.0, 3.1, so it's good. The baseline being between 2.8 and 3.3. That filter is good. Go back to our data sheet. Cleaned it for 30 minutes. It's at a 3.1, which we green tagged, and it is good to go.
As you can see, it's a pretty simple process to clean a DPF. Now we're going to go to Todd in the shop, and he is going to give you a couple points to bring up the next time you go to a shop and they want to start doing repairs on your after treatment system.
Well, the first thing I would ask, and it seems like the most obvious, is why. I would want to hear it in their own words why it needs to be replaced. The one box assembly was designed to be serviceable and not replace as an entire unit when there's any issue. Here are a few reasons why I would replace the entire one box assembly. If there's any structural damage like a dent, a crack, broken welds, pinholes in the one box assembly, it would need to be replaced. If there's any fluid contamination into the one box assembly, as in fuel or oil or coolant from the engine, you would need to replace your one box assembly. If the DOC element or the selective catalyst is damaged or cracked in any way, and this can happen from previous mentioned fluid contamination or something like an impact from an accident, it would need to be replaced. If these aren't one of the reasons the shop is asking you to hang a new one box assembly, I would be skeptical of the repair.
Thanks for watching our video. Hopefully this gave you a good start on some knowledge, and hopefully it'll help you the next time you're in a shop with an after treatment problem.